The name Peachtree Audio should be familiar to quite a few digital audiophiles. In fact, many years ago, Peachtree Audio was the company that came to the rescue of many music lovers and converted them into audiophiles, especially those that used their Apple devices or computers as sources for digital music. The company's IDAC, digital to analog converter, made it as the most affordable component, DAC component, to appear in Stereophile's Class A recommended list of components, and it stayed like that for a while. In fact, I own the IDAC myself, and I use it now and then. I do use it. Now wait a minute, you call yourself the analog holic and you listen to digital music as well? In fact, I have been streaming digital audio for over 10 years now. I started discovering the convenience and the discovery factor in streaming, and I started off with the Sonos ZP90, it was called back then. Eventually I changed into Blue Sound, Note 2, etc., etc. Listening to vinyl, now vinyl still makes up 90% of my listening. I have several vinyl albums, but I do like discovering music, albums, and artists that I have not heard before. And this is a good way to do that if you subscribe to services like Qobuz or Tidal, or I don't know if you people even remember MOG. Also, there are quite a few albums that I enjoy listening to that are not available on vinyl format. It's available on CD or digital only. So coming back to the Peachtree company, they have been at it since long before computers were accepted as a proper hi-fi source. Some years ago, this company fell into trouble because their overseas manufacturer decided to cut costs at the cost of quality, and that impacted Peachtree bad, and they did so without Peachtree's knowledge. So what they have done since is they call themselves Peachtree 2.0, a re-engineered, both in terms of design and components, and also manufacturing. They have shifted their manufacturing to a facility in Canada that specializes in manufacturing high-end, life-saving medical grade equipment. So it's a state-of-the-art facility, and from what I hear is that they ship it from Canada and it comes to the state of Washington, where Peachtree is headquartered, and they assemble this beautiful case on the units, and then they inspect the functionality of all units and verify that it's working. So 100% quality control. And I also read that this case takes about 2 weeks to come up with, and the casing is really gorgeous to look at. It's got this liquid, glossy type of finish that is that's quite revealing. So this is the Peachtree Audio Nova 150 integrated amplifier. We can go through some specs. It's a 2-channel amplifier, of course. It does 150 watts at 8 ohms and 250 watts at 4 ohms, and is capable of dipping down to 2.5 ohms. So if you have power hungry, difficult to drive speakers, this can get the job done. They also boast in the specs a really high signal to noise ratio, meaning that it's really a quiet amplifier. Actually, the preamp section of this is rated at 111 dB, but then when you take in the amplifier to the speaker out, they have demonstrated, I believe, 105 dBA signal to noise ratio. So that's pretty impressive, I should say. Let's take a look at the back and go through some of the connectivity options here. Okay, going from right to left here, we have a built-in phono stage, ground screw. We have aux1, and the phono stage also doubles as a line stage aux2. So there is the button up front in the face of the unit. If it pressed down for 5 seconds, the phono is automatically switched to a line stage level. So this doubles as an aux input, line input as well. And the aux1 also doubles as a home theater bypass unit, where the Peachtree is converted into unity gain mode, and you can actually drive and incorporate this Peachtree unit as a power amp into your home theater setup. Preamp out for those who want more power. Using this as a preamp also can be used to drive subwoofers. Loop input and loop output. This is for incorporating, say, a tube buffer or a room correction device or a graphic equalizer of sorts. So that's an interesting feature here. The star of the show in this unit is the DAC section. Now the chipset here is the quite famous ESS Saber 32 9018 K2M chipset. Chipset is one thing, but the actual implementation of the chipsets, what comes together in a high quality DAC, and they've done a wonderful job here, and I'll expand on it a little later in the listening impressions section. So you have 2 optical inputs, 1 coax input, and then you have 2 USB inputs. One is the B that you're normally used to seeing, and then there's an A. Both these USBs are asynchronous. Asynchronous simply means that the Peachtree DAC controls the packet quantity and the rate of transfer of the bits, of the ones and zeros of the music. So let me explain a little bit more on that. So this DAC here acts as a bus master, if you will, for the quantity and rate transfer of the from the USB. It doesn't rely on noisy clocks generated by your computer or your iOS devices. Generally, DACs that are synchronous are subject to jitter from sources like the computer, and the clocking information has to be extracted from these sources in packets and timing that are not quite accurate for purposes of high fidelity. So asynchronous USBs get around that and control jitter by controlling the rate of transfer from the USBs. That's nothing really new here. A lot of DACs now are out there that do have asynchronous USB transfer. So USB-B, like I said, is what the normal, I should say, the most common DAC user should recognize. This USB-A has been there forever, right? But this USB-A is compatible with iOS devices. What's new here is that they claim a world's first execution of a technology called DYNEC, DYNEC. DYNEC stands for Dynamic Noise Elimination Circuit. And what it does is it eliminates electrical noise from Apple devices, high retina displays that are notorious for electrical noise, etc. Okay, so sound quality and listening impressions. This is my favorite part of the review. This amp drove some difficult speakers. It drove a set of Magnepan 1.7 I's. It drove the smaller Magnepan MMGs, some medium efficiency speakers as well, Vandersteen 1C I's, and then my high 1C I's, and then my high efficiency 4-pi speakers. Let's talk vinyl first. I've owned this unit for quite some months now, almost a year, and I really enjoyed a one-box built-in DAC and built-in MM so I tried to use the MM stage a lot of times. I just didn't quite warm up to it. I felt like the sound was thin, lacking body, a little bit undynamic sounding, for the lack of better words. So I just switched to my outboard phono stages, and that's how my listening was primarily done. So let's talk. The first one I want to show you guys is Tone Poet series, All in My Mind by Dr. Lonnie Smith. This has some really high quality pressing here. This is the Blue Note Tone Poet series, like I said, remastered from original master tapes, analog master tapes. There is a track here on side 2 called 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. The organ and the drums are really transparent sounding, textures of snares, bass drums. The organ is very dynamic and punchy sounding, very clear, very quick, no extra overhang in the bass, very clean sound. Like drum tracks are like punchy and real fun listen. Second thing is Miles Davis's Big Fun album. This is a music on vinyl pressing, and there's the first track on here called Great Expectations. Again, great swing, great rhythm, pace, and timing that the Brits call it. The percussion presentation is so clean and so transparent. The louder you turn up, the more you turn up the volume knob, the cleaner it sounds. A lot of space between instruments. Seemed a little bit shy in the treble. There was not a touch of warmth per se. It felt like it was held back a little bit on the highs, like a little bit restrained. But the soundstage and the depth layering were superb. Next, let's talk. This album's called Rejoice, Tony Allen and Hugh Muscala. Again, great pressing. It's surprisingly just a BMG pressing, World Circuit Records. It's not an expensive record at all. I think it's in the neighborhood of about $20 or so. Again, great music and excellent pressing. Same thing here. The drum and bass are tight and the same rhythm and pace and timing, this amp just nails it. It brought the Magnapan 1.7i's to life. Same thing here. The more you turn up the volume, the clearer the sound gets. There's nothing painful about high volume here, and then you notice your decibel meter is showing high readings, and then you realize, oh, I don't want to damage my hearing. I should probably turn it down. But that goes to show the transparency and the lack of noise in the sound. Another one I want to talk about was this guy here. This one is a little bit rare. It's by Count Buffaloes, and it's called Emergency. This is a Toshiba pressing. It's a Japanese pressing, and it's really, really well done. There is the track called Drum Solo. It's the last track on side A. Explosive again. Very nice percussion sounds. Shimmer and decay of the cymbals are there. Punchiness in the bass, texture of the bass drums, texture of the snares. It sounds fantastic. There is a track 2, and it's called Right as Rain. You're Right as Rain, and I think it's a redo of Bob James's track here. And there's the synth and keyboard here that are not as quite warm sounding as I associate the sound with some of my Class A and Class AB amplifiers, some of the ones I just recently reviewed as well. I found those to be a little more fuller sounding, and the Peachtree was a little bit restrained and not so full and deep. One more, guys, and then we'll switch to digital. This one here. This is Dehumanizer, Black Sabbath, a Dio Sabbath album. Yes, I know it's heresy. It's not Aussie, so. But guess what? This album rocks. It is heavy. It is punchy, and through the Magnapan 1.7i's. Who said that they cannot boogie? Who says you cannot headbang with Magnapans? This amp took control, and the Magnapans make the 40 hertz region heard. They don't make it felt because it's physics. It's a panel that you'd need something bigger like 3.7s, etc. But nonetheless, I had so much fun. It was a headbanging party. Just myself and the Magnapans and the Peachtree took me back to when I was much younger. So, okay, that's it for vinyl. Let's talk about digital. So I primarily used for this review the Blue Sound Note 2, the DAC out to the coax out to the coax input on this one. If you like classical music, there's a ton of titles out there on DSD and high-res downloads on HD tracks, or lossless high-res streaming from Qobuz streaming services, etc. First album I want to talk about is the 1812 Overture, but it's Eric Kunzel's version with the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra featuring Kiev Chorus and the Children's Choir of Cincinnati. Outstanding detail and sound staging. If you have not heard this, you should listen to this album, especially the Children's Choir section. Sounds so sonorous. And of course the Blast to the Canyon. This amp really controlled the Magnapans quite well. Martha Argerich, my second album I want to talk about. It's called The Sound of Martha Argerich. One of my favorite classical pianists. Beautiful coherence, detail, and soundstage. Here again, I started noticing pianos not being as weighty as I'd want them, as I've heard them with some of the Class A, Class AB amplifiers that I reviewed. A little bit thin there. Then the third album, let's talk Eagles, Long Road Out of Eden. Great album, superb music, good recording as well. And this combination of Peachtree and Magnepan speakers just sucked you into the music. It showed a great detail, and you could tell Don Henley's voice is aging a little bit, but still going strong. So in conclusions, bring on heavy percussion, rock, pop music, classical music, even heavy metal, and this amp nails it. Subtler music involving pianos, voices. I am starting to notice some leanness, I should say, some thinness in the sound, and the highs and the shimmer and the decay of cymbals. I've heard them a little better when going Class A. It's not to say that all Class Ds sound like that. I have heard Class Ds that you wouldn't know if it's a Class A or any other amplifier topography. But this particular unit, I'm noticing some reticence in the treble, some leanness in the mid-range, and some weight when it comes to pianos. So it's all a matter of preference. If you're looking for a one-box integrated amp with a fantastic built-in DAC, and you have to match them with power-hungry speakers like, say, Magnepans, etc., have no fear, this amp will do full justice. If you like the ultra resolution type of presentation, super clean, super fast, quick in the bass, and if you don't mind a bit of leanness and a little analytical presentation for instruments like the piano, etc., then this amp's for you. It all comes down to preference. I matched this with my high frequency speakers, 4-pi speakers, like I said. I think it's a better match with those high power demanding speakers. Just that maybe they found a synergy there, but they sounded kind of lean and thin with my high efficiency speakers. So I've had fun doing this review. I've owned this amp for quite some time, and just wanted to share some of my thoughts with you on the Peachtree Nova 150. If you like this video, please do subscribe. More amplifier and analog component reviews coming soon. Thank you very much.